Welcome to Module 2 of ASU Help Center Certified Training Program, Training Fundamentals. This training will be broken up into 3 video segments. The first segment will cover the 3 things effective training should accomplish, along with the 5 things all effective trainers do. The second segment will cover the core competencies of effective trainers. And then the final segment of this module will cover the instructor triangle, along with the 5 elements of an effective training environment. Training has been described as both an art and a science. The science of training helps to explain what must be done during a training session. It is concerned with the why and how of instruction. That is why certified instructor training includes subjects on the principles of learning, motivation, communication, instructional methods, objectives, testing, and the ways people learn, among other topics. That is also why instructor training includes a lot of practice teaching and teaching performance examinations. These specific parts of the training are designed to help the beginning instructor grasp the basic techniques of instruction. After beginning instructors learn to use these techniques, they can start to learn the art of instruction. Efficient instructors know and follow all the rules and techniques of training. However, effective instructors are often those who seize every opportunity to enhance the learning experience by being more creative in their use of training materials and activities. Most of us easily recognize efficient instructors. They do things right. They plan their lessons, prepare the learning environment, conduct proper lesson introductions, ask questions, and use instructional media materials. That, however, does not ensure they are effective. Effectiveness in instruction is much more than just doing things right. It is doing the right things to enable students to learn. It is measured when students demonstrate they have met the objectives of the course as a result of your instruction. Training should accomplish at least 3 things. It should develop knowledge, skills, and attitudes. It should provide changes in behavior, and it should meet specific objectives. The focus of training is to prepare individuals to perform the duties of the job to which they will be assigned. Your challenge is to help participants learn and to lead them in gaining the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that will make them successful in their role here at the Help Center. We accomplish this by explaining our Help Center procedures, describing the systems they will be working with, working and role-playing scenarios with those systems, giving them an opportunity to practice new skills through shadowing, and offering feedback to develop a winning attitude. Your interaction with participants in the training environment is your greatest source of information about participants and inspiration for those participants. You set the tone for acceptable behavior. New staff members learn what to expect and how they should act based on your example. Seasoned employees understand what is acceptable by what you model. Changes in behavior can be accomplished through feedback after learning assessments and shadow sessions, and through refresher training to address quality control issues. In each case, keep in mind that training is meant to establish and motivate a specific behavior. The first objective of training is to provide the skills and knowledge that Help Center team members require to properly perform their job duties and provide superior customer service. But a further objective in training is to ensure that participants gain the confidence they need to feel comfortable in their job. This is accomplished through proper instruction, practical exercises such as role-playing and scenarios, shadowing of seasoned team members, and performance assessments and feedback. Effective trainers do 5 things. Always keep in mind why you are delivering the training. Why are you doing this? How you will deliver and present the training, how will we do this, and what you expect the audience to gain from the training. Why is the audience here? Effective trainers know the fundamentals by recognizing learning expectations, aligning those expectations with learning objectives, and then focusing on the core content of the lesson. They are aware of the barriers to learning and know how to manage those barriers. They create a training session plan in advance so that they are prepared to deliver and facilitate the training session. They get participants to apply the learning they have gained in a training session by using training activities, role-playing real-life situations, and by using scenarios to assist in problem identification and solution. And the evaluate and revise training to ensure that participants have gained the desired skills from the training and that all training objectives have been accomplished. It is important that as a trainer you are aware of the training objectives for each training session. In planning out the training session, you need to be aware of what it is you want participants to learn and what skills you want them to be able to perform at the end of the training session. In other words, you should build your training session around providing the required information and time to test new knowledge and skills in order to build confidence. Aims, objectives, and learning outcomes provide a clear indication of the goals and purpose of the training. Trainers use them to focus the training and to assess performance and success of participants. Participants can use them to evaluate the training from their own perspective. We develop and use all three of these so that learners are clear about what the aims of the training are and what they will have learned by the end of the training session. They can also be used to feed into learners' evaluations of the training at the end of the session. Response to questions gauging levels of achievement of aims, objectives, and learning outcomes can provide useful information on the success of the training session. Aims are overall statements of what you hope the training event will achieve. Writing learning aims is a fairly straightforward process. Keep your language clear and precise and try not to have too many little aims. Avoid ambiguity or aims that might be open to interpretation. The aim should also be learner-centered, so that the training can be structured in such a way to meet the aim of the training for the individual learner. Objectives are more specific statements of what you will present to the participants. Writing learning objectives is a fairly straightforward process as well. Keep your language clear and precise, and try not to have too many little objectives, much like you don't want too many little aims. Again, avoid ambiguity or objectives that might be open to interpretation. The objective should also be learner-centered so that the training is structured in such a way to meet both the objective of the training and the objective for the individual learner. Learning outcomes are a set of statements setting out what the participant should be able to do or understand by the end of the training session. Learning outcomes need to be more detailed than aims and objectives. They also need to be more carefully crafted to ensure that the outcome as stated is achievable in the context of the training you are presenting. Learning outcomes must be clear and precise. Be learner-centered. Specify an outcome that can be observed or measured, and be realistic and achievable. Have you ever had trouble learning something new? Why is it easy to learn some things and difficult to learn others? Have you ever thought you knew something but could not recall it when you needed to? Problems with learning and recall often result from a barrier that causes a breakdown in information processing, or a barrier to learning. The three are attention perception, where attention does not guarantee learning. If participants perceive that the new information has no value, their perception will act as a barrier that will stop any further information processing. Short-term memory. If something or someone else grabs a participant's attention during information processing, the information in short-term memory will become unavailable in a matter of seconds. And long-term memory. Barriers to recall will prevent students from recalling information stored in a long-term memory. Let's go into these in a little bit more detail. A number of factors can act as barriers during the attention perception phase of information processing. For instance, it could be perceived as irrelevant. If a participant perceives new information has no application to their job or their interests, they will likely ignore it. It could be repeated or contradictory information. If new information appears to repeat or contradict what participants believe to be true, they may reject the new information without further consideration. Overriding physical discomfort. Have you ever been so tired all you could think about was sleep? Being too hot or too cold, having a headache or feeling sick? These might cause participants to ignore new information because they are more concerned with their immediate discomfort. An emotional reaction. A strong emotional reaction to an information source may cause students to ignore information from that source. Actively processing information in short-term memory prepares it for storage in our long-term memory. Without this process of encoding and storing information, short-term memory can be lost very quickly. Have you ever lost a thought when something distracted you? Interruptions are the primary barrier at this stage of information processing. The longer the information, the greater the chance the information may be lost from memory. Interruptions may take several forms: someone coming in the room, an unexpected noise, or a sudden unrelated thought. Getting too much information too quickly is another type of interruption. Anything that stops students from processing information has the potential to disrupt learning. Another type of barrier is prior knowledge that contradicts what students are trying to learn. Prior knowledge is usually helpful during information processing because participants may use it to make sense out of new information. However, it may be a barrier to learning if it differs greatly from what they are trying to learn. This barrier may cause you to have difficulties remembering the correct procedures, for instance. What makes us forget? Do we lose memory over time? Science still does not know the answer to this question, although it is suspected that we do not lose the information, but we simply lose the ability to access the information. How we access information depends primarily on how we first process the information in our short-term memory. Have you ever tried to remember something by repeating it over and over to yourself? Repetition is one process we use to store information in long-term memory. However, a more effective way to process information is to draw connections to previously learned information. Normally, we do this unconsciously as we try to make sense of new information by considering it in light of what we already know. Many experiments have shown that related ideas may be recalled more quickly than unrelated concepts. The two key barriers to recalling information are disuse and improperly stored information. Information memorized through repetition with no attempt to make associations with other information may decay very quickly through disuse. Think of this in terms of finding a missing person. It would be very difficult to find someone if all that is known is the person's name. We locate people through their associations with friends and family, organizations, and with certain known activities or habits. The more associations, the easier the person is to find. Likewise, the more associations we make to information, the better our chance of recalling it later when we need it. Knowing the barriers to learning and recall will help you understand why learning can sometimes be difficult. As an instructor, you can use various strategies to help your participants overcome barriers such as the following. Attention. When you are training, you have to gain and retain your participants' attention. Emphasize the important points you want them to learn. Use eye contact and observe body language to ensure you are maintaining their attention throughout the training session. Ask questions if you believe their attention is wavering. Perception. Overcoming your participants' barriers to perception is more difficult because of the personal factors involved. Ensure participants know the relevance of the training to their job. Short-term memory. During training, minimize distractions that can interrupt information processing. Long-term memory. Help participants link new material to what they already know. The more links, the more associations they will be able to use later to recall the information. Successful trainers develop a learning plan before they begin teaching a lesson. A learning plan is an organized description of the activities and resources you'll use to guide a group towards a specific learning objective. It details the subject matter that you'll teach, how long each session should take, the methods of instruction for each topic covered, and the measures you'll use to check that people have learned what you need them to learn. You should also match learning activities and presentations to lesson objectives. It can be as simple as a brief outline or more complex with scripts, prompts, and a list of questions that you plan to ask participants. There are 5 main steps in creating a lesson plan. First, you want to define training objectives. Then you want to clarify key topics and related concepts. You want to structure your presentation. You want to assess the learning of your participants. And then you also want to consider the timing for each one of your learning activities. Let's look at these in detail. The first thing a trainer needs to do when creating a lesson plan is define the session's training objective. To specify what participants will learn, the objective should be measurable and expressed in terms of the desired skill or behavior, the conditions in which the skill is utilized, and a benchmark to measure the new skill or behavior learned against. In other words, The objective of the training is where you want the participant to end up at the end of the training lesson or session. So, if you were teaching them how to use a new system, the learning objective does not need to be mastery of the system, but it should indicate a level of familiarity and an ability with the system itself. Think about these 3 key questions. First, what are the most important concepts or skills that trainees need to understand by the end of the class? You should only have 1 or 2 learning objectives for each class. If you have more, you are likely to have too much information to cover, and trainees may feel overwhelmed with the information and not be able to retain much of what you're teaching them. Question 2, why are these concepts and skills important? Again, you want to tie the objective into the skill you want the participants to gain from the training session. Be this knowledge of a specific policy or procedure, or an ability to operate a specific system utilized in the help center. And then 3, how will you know that they have understood these objectives correctly? To accomplish this, you could use the ABCD learning objective model to set a training objective that comprehensively addresses your learner's needs. This helps you understand A, your audience, define B, the behavior needed at the end of the session, C, specify the conditions under which knowledge will be used, and D, determine the degree of knowledge needed. We will discuss the ABCD model in more detail in a later module. Clarify key topics and related concepts. List in order all points you need to cover and the order you will cover them in. Your class will focus on a few central ideas or skills, but you'll need to explain related concepts to reach your learning objective. Consider themes and topics that are covered in past training sessions or that will be covered in future sessions so that you can reinforce past learning and foretell future applications of skills in future learning sessions. List your key topics and their related concepts and then group them together. For example, use a tree diagram to show how they are interconnected. Think about how you will present the material. Engage participants using several different approaches and apply them in different ways. Leverage a variety of tools creatively, such as group discussions, role play, group teaching, and online tools. Once you have a general idea of what you need to cover, draft a lesson outline. List all of the points that you need to cover in the order in which you'll cover them. Consider participants' existing skills and knowledge, and develop a template showing the training progression for the full training session. This will help participants put these new skills into a personal context, which in turn will help them retain them better. Now insert the information from your outline into your training plan template. Check back against your initial brainstorming document to make sure that you've covered everything that you need to say during the training session. Also compare your template with your desired objectives for the session to make sure that you are achieving each and every one of them. Next, you want to assess learning. Include ways to assess the participants are learning the skills you are training them on. Make time to check learning progress and retention. Assess before, during, and after training is completed. Think about when you'll check that students have understood the key points in your lessons. Build in learning checks and question and answer sessions and include these in your template. Also consider how you will evaluate the session. You may want to use a formal measurement approach aligned with Kirkpatrick's 4-level training evaluation model, or you may want to create a simple on or offline questionnaire that will help you tell if the session has been successful for your participants. The Kirkpatrick 4-level training evaluation model contains 4 levels of evaluation: reaction, learning, behavior, and results. Let's look at each one of these in greater detail. Level 1 is reaction. This level measures how your participants reacted to the training. Obviously, you want them to feel that the training was a valuable experience, and you want them to feel good about the instructor, the topic, the material, its presentation, and the training environment. It's important to measure reaction because it helps you understand how well the training was received by your audience. It also helps you improve the training for future trainees, and also identifies important areas or topics that are missing from the training. Level 2 is learning. At level 2, you measure what your trainees have learned. how much has their knowledge actually increased as a result of the training? When you plan the training session, you hopefully started with a list of specific learning objectives. These should be the starting point for your measurement. Keep in mind that you can measure learning in different ways depending on these objectives and depending on whether you're interested in changes to knowledge, skills, or attitudes. It's important to measure this because knowing what your trainees are learning and what they aren't will help you improve future training sessions. Level 3 is behavior. At this level, you evaluate how far your trainees have changed their behavior based on the training that they've received. Specifically, this looks at how trainees apply the information. It's important to realize that behavior can only change if conditions are favorable. For instance, imagine you skip measurement at the first 2 Kirkpatrick levels, and when looking at your group's behavior, you determine that no behavior change has taken place. Therefore, you assume that your trainees haven't learned anything and that the training was ineffective. However, just because behavior hasn't changed, it doesn't mean that trainees haven't learned anything. Perhaps their boss won't let them apply the new knowledge, or maybe they've learned everything you taught, but they have no desire to apply the knowledge themselves. This is why we then want to examine behavior. The final level, level 4, is results. At this level, you analyze the final results of your training. This includes outcomes that you or the help center have determined to be good for customer service, good for the employees, or good for our overall results. Next, we want to consider timing. Think about the timing of your training session. Plan for concepts or skills that may take more time. Some concepts or skills will take more time to master than others. So identify these up front and allow students extra time to absorb or practice the material. Record the time that you will allocate for each concept or section on your training plan, and make sure that you've allowed plenty of time to focus on the core concepts. If you don't have enough time, you'll need to run additional sessions or narrow your learning objectives and reduce the number of topics that you plan to cover. We then want to provide training activities. Training activities help to keep participants focused and to allow them an opportunity to utilize new skills and knowledge. There are many ways that you can break up training sessions and keep trainees attentive and involved. Interactive activities include quizzes. For long, complicated training, stop periodically to administer brief quizzes on information presented up to that point. You can also begin sessions with a pre-quiz and let participants know there will also be a follow-up quiz. Trainees will stay engaged in order to improve their pre-quiz scores on the final quiz. Further motivate participants by offering awards to the highest scorer or the most improved scores. Group discussions. Break the participants down into small groups and give them case studies or work situations to discuss or solve. In refresher training situations, this is a good way for knowledgeable veteran employees to pass on their experience to newer employees. Case studies. Adults tend to bring a problem-oriented way of thinking to the workplace. Case studies are an excellent way to capitalize on this type of adult learning. By analyzing real job-related situations, employees can learn how to handle similar situations. They can also see how various elements of a job work together to create problems as well as solutions. Active summaries. Create small groups and have them choose a leader. Ask them to summarize the lecture's major points, and each team leader present the summaries to the class. Read aloud a pre-written summary and compare this with the participants' impressions. A question and answer session. Informal question and answer sessions are most effective with small groups and for updating skills rather than teaching new skills. For example, some changes in departmental procedures might easily be handled by a short explanation by the supervisor followed by a question and answer period and discussion period. Again, excellent for refresher training. Finally, role playing. By assuming roles and acting out situations that might occur in the workplace, employees learn how to handle various situations before they face them on the job. Role-playing is an excellent training technique for many interpersonal skills, especially in customer service. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to interactive activities. Advantages include interactive sessions keep trainees engaged in the training, which makes them more receptive to new information. They make training more fun and enjoyable. They provide ways for veteran employees to pass on knowledge and experience to newer employees. And they can provide in-session feedback to trainers on how well trainees are learning. Disadvantages include interactive sessions can take longer because activities such as taking quizzes or breaking into small groups are time-consuming. And also, some methods can be less structured and trainers will need to make sure that all necessary information is covered. Experiential or hands-on training offers several more effective techniques for teaching employees, including CrossTraining, which allows employees to experience other jobs or skills, which not only enhances employees' skills but also gives the Help Center the benefit of having team members who can perform more than one job. Cross-training also gives team members a better appreciation of what co-workers do and how their job fits in with the work of others to achieve Help Center goals. Demonstrations are attention grabbers. They are an excellent way to teach employees to use new equipment or systems, or to teach the steps in a new process. They are also effective in teaching system skills. Combined with the opportunity for questions and answers, this is a powerful and engaging form of training. Finally, coaching. The goal of job coaching is to improve an employee's performance. Coaching focuses on the individual needs of a team member and is generally less formal than other kinds of training. There are usually no set training sessions. A manager, supervisor, or veteran team member serves as a coach. He or she gets together with the team member before coaching when time allows and works with them on a number of questions. Coaching includes answering questions, suggesting more effective strategies, correcting errors, guiding team members towards goals, giving support and encouragement, and providing knowledgeable feedback. Good trainers start slowly on a topic and then progress forward in a consistent way. They don't jump from topic to topic, but remain focused. They immerse their audience in a topic and lead them to learn the desired skills. They know that an inconsistent approach will only confuse the trainees, which in turn increase the likelihood of non-participation. Steps of consistent planning of a lesson should be utilized, and if it is determined not all steps were utilized properly, revise the lesson plan. A consistent lesson includes the following steps. First, define your objective. Then clarify key topics and related concepts. Organize material. Plan your presentation techniques. Include evaluation, and then focus on the timing for your session. Successful trainers are very sensitive about their performance. They want to be the best and remain the best. And the only way they can do this is by measuring their training performance and also measuring how much trainees have learned. Tests of learning retention and learning activities should be used throughout a lesson to ensure participant engagement and a successfully executed lesson. Trainers are also eager to hear back from trainees after the course through follow-up and course surveys. They are also evaluated by supervisors and other trainers to judge effectiveness. Trainers also habitually update their training materials, exercises, and trainer scripts after every single course delivery so that they can improve on their course each and every time. No chances are ever lost in learning something new about the training and how people learn. Top trainers deal with knowledge and knowledge transfer. Learning and teaching is in their blood, and they cannot possibly imagine themselves in a world where they are not constantly learning. They are eager to find the latest in their field and remain up to date. They are usually avid book readers and love research. They are interested in people and what helps people to learn better and progress more. In Part 2 of our Module 2, we will discuss the core competencies of effective trainers.